Although we may have come to this leadership race under circumstances that were less than ideal, we are now, with the wind at our back, we have capable candidates, and any one of us will emerge from this. The party will be stronger, the leader will have a united caucus and a united party, and we'll be in a better position to take on the BC. I believe that mainstream values are New Democrat values. There are those that like to paint us and characterize us as marginal and on the edges of society. Quite the contrary. Look around the room. You know your community very well. There are community leaders here, there are community leaders in every community right across BC who are either members of the NDP or have been supporters of the NDP most of their lives. We understand community. We understand the needs of those who have not, and we understand and respect those that have much. But we ask of those who have much that they give back to community. That's part and parcel of what we have an abundance in this province. All of us know this. That is unparalleled in Canada, perhaps unparalleled in North America. And yet we've had a government in power over the past 10 years that has methodically and deliberately eroded confidence in our public institutions. Healthcare. Underfunded healthcare, crisis after crisis after crisis, leaving people with the impression that the public system does not work and we require a private alternative. Not true. Not true. If you have a government that is committed to public services, committed to public health care, you will have public health care that works for people. Public education is another one. Increases in the funding for private schooling in British Columbia over the past 10 years have gone up 58%, when funding for public education has gone up 13%. That leads to an erosion of meat regulations. Another example of taking the ability, head shaking on that one. Everywhere I go in rural BC, you can't sell your neighbor a chicken. Absolutely outrageous. Our colleague Nick Simons lives in Powell River. You've got to take two ferries to take your livestock to an abattoir. You've got to get off Powell River to get to the island. You've got to drive down to Nanaimo to go to the lower mainland to have your meat processed. How is that in anyone's interest? Certainly not in the interest of the farmer. And with respect to the food-borne diseases and bacteria from farm gate sales, 0.00001%. All the rest, large industrial processing facilities. That's where you need meat inspection, ladies and gentlemen, not over the back fence. The value of the ALR was not in 1972. It's going to be in 2072. When we still are able to feed ourselves, when transportation costs and the cost of moving tomatoes from Tijuana is so prohibitive that the only way we're going to be able to feed ourselves is with locally grown food. It is so important that we reinvigorate the ALR, and we do that by funding the Agricultural Land Commission and stopping the creation of subdivisions. We should be having negotiation with Josh Schmenk and the Columbia River Treaty Commission, the committee was what it was called at the time. So I know, and I can now say, 15 years later, that I appreciate and respect and understand that a second wrong was done to this region, and if I'm elected leader of the NDP and if I become Premier of British Columbia, we will be taking another look at the Columbia Basin Trust. The benefits on the other side of the path are extraordinary. You all know that. It's time that those benefits were shared with the region proper, and to cut a regional district in half as we did was the wrong way to go. That led to the signing of about 36 different contracts through what they called a clean energy call. And those contracts were never seen by the opposition. They were never seen in detail or examined by the BC Utilities Commission. They were rubber stamped because they met the criteria of the call for power. They met the criteria that the Liberals put out. Those contracts, most of them 30, 40 years in length, are a life. So my proposal is that there be an immediate moratorium on run-of-river power projects and that we examine each contract. The BC Liberals said, we will not rip up contracts, but they proceeded to rip up contracts immediately after they were elected. I've said that I will look at every single IPP contract, and if it's not in the public interest, it will be abrogated, which is another way for broken. It will be renegotiated in the public interest. That's what governments are supposed to do, protect the public interest, not private interest.